What is going on, y'all? I will give it a minute and then we'll get started here. Back in North Carolina on a limited time frame right now because Pearson is asleep. So my time is his time. He's been asleep for a little over an hour and 14 minutes. So we are nearing the point where he is going to wake up. So this may be a very speedy episode. What's up, y'all? Who folks are tuning in? Decided to dive right in today, talk about a few things. So I just recorded my weekly episode. I'll get that cut, mixed, put out. You'll have that available later today. But thought, hey, let's go ahead and dive into a few things that I didn't really talk about on today's episode. And the first one, if I can find my notes because I have way too many tabs open, is around the updated draft order. I'm going to try to share. Hopefully I can get that shared. All right, let's share here. And the updated draft order after picks were given out. And as expected, the Panthers did not get a single compensatory pick. That's what happens when you don't really have talent on the roster and you let people go and they don't get signed elsewhere. Just how the cookie crumbles. So we'll look at the updated draft order. We really only care about the Panthers. And so we'll look at that in a second. And this is available on the NFL website. You can go to nflcommunications.com. Pops up as one of the first articles, updated draft order. Nothing changed. And I guess before we dive in, really, compensatory picks are given out third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh rounds, later rounds. The picks are added at the end of that round. So it's not like they're going to jump in front of us in between, but it will impact us later, which I'll show you in a second. So right now, first pick for us, 33rd overall pick, sitting in the second round. Nothing changed there. We'll look at, again, no compensatory picks added in the second round. Third round, no impact again. Picking first in the third round, which is the 65th overall pick. So same there, nothing changed. I'm slowly trying to get this to move down. We do have the compensatory picks added in the third round. So 4 compensatory picks have been added between what would have been our pick in the fourth, coming from the third to the fourth round. So it does impact us. So you now have Jacksonville, Philadelphia, the Rams, and Washington, which was came from San Francisco. So you have 4 additional picks in front of us going from the third to the fourth round. So it does have a little bit of an impact there. Again, picking in the fourth round, pick number 1, which is the 100th overall pick now. So things adjusted a little bit. It would have been the 96th pick before the compensatory picks were added. We'll keep scrolling through. Takes a second to go. We'll move into some additional compensatory picks here. San Francisco, Buffalo, Baltimore. And at the top of the 5th round, the good old Baker Mayfield trade, as the Cleveland Browns now hold that pick. So from us, doesn't really impact us. Keep moving on down here. We can get it to scroll. This thing like goes and goes. We have the pick, one of the picks from the San Francisco trade, round 5, 31st pick, 165. And that came again from San Francisco. And then we got a ton of compensatory picks buckled in there. Anyways, I'm not going to go through this. You can go and look at the updated draft order that's now available. I'm not going to do another mock draft. I know I've done 3, but I'm not going to do another mock draft until the free agency period ends. Free agency period is going to be starting. I guess I'll go out of order and talk about free agency here for just a second. Let me stop sharing my screen. And it's not the best situation right now for the Carolina Panthers heading into free agency. I know I've seen a lot of fans on here asking, what about Frankie Louvu? Why haven't we signed Frankie Louvu? I think there's just going to be a lot of competition for Frankie Louvu. I don't know that we're going to be able to pay him the amount of money that he's going to demand. Of course, we would love to have him back. I know Panthers fans and the front office would love to have him back, but it's hard to imagine us not, receiving some competition from the Cowboys or another team that has the cap space or ability to pay him. But things aren't looking great. So with Brian Burns being designated right now with the franchise tag, that's $24 million. I know things can adjust if we get a long-term contract and you spread out that cap hit, which is hopefully the path that we go with. Although I know there's fans all over the place that want to trade him. I don't know how you can replace his value. And yes, he does bring value to this team, believe it or not, for fans that, again, want him out of here and fans that say we're going to pay him too much. You got to realize that 27, 30 million, whatever that number is today, is going to look like change in 3 or 4 years. It's the market's going to continue to shift. Cap space is going to continue to grow, and the Brian Burns number will slowly get pushed back and back and back. And again, we can spread it out, folks. We can spread out that number over the course. But not looking great when it comes to free agency and the actual wide receiver market per se. I know there's the Mike Evans transaction happened while I was out traveling. We've seen quite a few guys get tagged, not exclusive tags to be exact, which means if we were to go out and get the Higgins or the Pittman, we're going to be giving up 2 first-round picks, which is just likely not the case. So I'm anxious to see what is really going to be available and who is going to want to come here, because I think we continue to, in Carolina, have this idea that we are just a destination that people want to come to. You're the worst team in the NFL. Worst team in the NFL. So it's hard to think as a player that you're going to want to go to a situation like this when things have been unstable and you're just trying to figure it out. So I don't know the names, we can talk about here. Let me sort this out. Yeah, the Calvin Ridley, I think it's going to be on everybody's radars, but it's not just Panthers. He's going to demand wide receiver one money. Wide receiver one money. You've got Gabriel Davis, Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, Josh Reynolds, Hollywood Brown, Noah Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., KJ Osborne. And then guess what? Right there, when we talk about receiving yards at 500 receiving yards, is DJ Chark. Some fans are not going to want him back. I'm fine with fans who sit on either side of the fence, but I wouldn't be surprised if we have some of these lesser tier guys. I'm not saying it's the best option, and we know that Canales does not have an emotional tie to these players, so it's going to be much easier for him to move on from someone versus the other. The other in the mix, which I talked about on the podcast, I'm not getting into the weeds of all the other things that are happening with the offensive line, with Hurst, because I talked about that on my podcast recording, so I'm not going to cross-reference. But Amir Smith-Marset, he is one I talked about as we talk about the wide receiver position. I'd love to have him back. I know the Panthers aren't going to tender him, but they would like to bring him back. And if you can get him for 2 or 3 years on the lower end of 2-3 million-ish, I think you do that. He's a very viable option in the punt return game. Also, we saw his development in the offense towards the end of the year. And why not? Why not give it a shot? Let him develop alongside Bryce. Maybe he can become more of a true slot receiver as Adam ages out. We know Adam's going to be a little bit older, continues to get older. So, yeah, cap space. I mean, it's going to be probably a wild week. The other thing to think about is over the course of the first week, that's when most of these transactions are going to occur for the Panthers. So I went back. You can do this as well. I did it last year, as free agency opened up. You can go back and look at the Panthers transactions that occurred when free agency opened, and most of the big signings occurred within that first week. So I went back and pulled a list. I did not talk about this, so I will say shout out to JJ Jensen getting his contract. Glad to have him back. But last year, you look at what happened. So we did tender Sam Franklin last year. This was right as the league year opened. signed Bradley Bozeman. We also released Pat Elflein. You remember Pat Elflein? He never landed anywhere. That's part of the reason we don't get compensatory picks, because you release guys and no team picks them up. The Shy Smiths, all those folks, very frustrating time. But then the 16th through the 22nd, which is about a week after free agency opened, we signed Hayden Hurst, Deshaun Williams, Shai Tuttle, Andy Dalton, Von Bell, Justin McCray, Adam Thielen, and Miles Sanders. So within that first week, a big chunk of the free agents, over 50% of those that we signed, were in the first week. So things are going to happen fast. We've already seen it happen pretty quickly with other teams starting to make moves. Legal tampering again, opening up on the 11th. So I think more news is going to come through. Then things kind of got a little bit slower. DJ Chark was signed on March 30th. You start to whittle out, who's available, looking at your needs. Then in April, signed Camus, Grugier Hill, John Penasini, who we know didn't work out, Eric Rowe, who we know didn't work out, Demir Bird, who got hurt. And that was the bulk of your signings as far as the free agents that we brought on. We move into the draft. You sign your draft prospects. Then you start bringing in all these undrafted free agents and building out and getting to that 90-man roster. So it's going to be fun times, man. Going to be fun times. And let me hop over, just checking. Good gosh, man. 34 people tuning into this. What is going on? This is wild. 35. Thank y'all for joining. I got to say, it's crazy. I talked about it on my actual podcast recording that the number of views that I got off of just the last time I went live was like the most that I've had so far. And I just hit over 400 subscribers on YouTube. So if you are following the show on YouTube, I appreciate it. If you want to share, follow me on there. That's the goal for me, is to continue to grow YouTube. Of course, I'm active on every platform, podcast out once a week on wherever you listen. But YouTube's the place for me, because I know the monetization that lies there that will help me grow this show and eventually bring on hopefully some guests, because I know y'all are probably begging for guests and tired of hearing me talking here by myself on that. All right, folks, I'm going to close this out. Pearson's still asleep, at least right now. And I'm going to get on my soapbox. Guess what? I have the show. This is my opinions, my thoughts, and so that's what I'm going to do. I was out traveling in Las Vegas, as y'all know, with a work conference this past week. And I know that Kay Adams with the Up and Adams show came to Charlotte to Bank of America Stadium. I know she talked to Dave Canales, talked to Luke Kuechly, and talked to Nicole Tepper. And I saw a ton of folks in this fan base bashing Nicole Tepper and her responses. And I'm not doing that. And you saw me, if you follow on X, you saw my post yesterday. I posted 2 things about this. And I'm not for it, man. And I'm tired of the clickbait garbage that I see on this platform, on X. Like, to be honest, I wish I did not have to be on X, because for the most part, I hate it. There was a reason that I wasn't on it for 5 or 6 years, but I know it's important to be able to, talk to fans, to get digested news. But there's definitely a bad side to it. And it's a bad side to it. And it's not just us. It's not just our fan base. But I'm going to hone in on our fan base, because I'm the one interacting. And here's where I sit. I understand the frustrations with ownership. No, I was not paid by the Carolina Panthers organization or the Teppers or Tepper Sports and Entertainment to make a statement around this. Heck, folks, half the reason that this channel on YouTube even expanded to what it is was because of the water throwing incident. When Tepper threw water on a fan, I immediately reacted, had my response. That was part of the groove that broke me out of doing a traditional podcast and start creating more content like this, like videos, like additional stuff. So I'm not going to deny that. And I was just as frustrated with you over that incident as everyone else. And I understand the frustration when Tepper comes out and he talks about concerts and events and y'all just get so worked up. This is the part that really ticks me off with a lot of the fans. And it's not everyone, but people go in and they clip very small pieces of content, and they use it to push their narrative on whatever topic or subject it is. It's pure garbage. I don't cuss, but it's clickbait BS to the fullest extent. And I say that because there were two things that happened with the Nicole Tepper interview on the Kay Adams show. The first one was a response around your proudest moment here, and fans lost their mind when she talked about the events that were brought to the stadium. And I was a little like, oh man, yeah, I'm a little upset about that too. But I go back and I watch the clip, and the question that was asked, that Kay asked Nicole Tepper, Nicole's response was spot on. Many people forget that, I mean, look at the name of their company, Tepper Sports, and not all sports, not Panthers, entertainment. Tepper Sports and Entertainment's in the daggum name. And you get ticked off that they have focuses on growing the local economy and concerts and venues. You get so hung up on it, man. Yeah, I've had my frustrations with it, but I had to go back, and I'm going to play the clip here because it really got me fired up that we have fans that are clicking and putting this crap out there. So let me share, if I can do this, the clip, and we can watch it live and hear the response. Here we go.
Cam Jordan, arrival of the Panthers, and he goes, listen, Kay, Charlotte's where it's at. Like, go eat, go enjoy the scene.
Yeah.
How have you embraced the city? And I can't believe it's your 6th year as owner.
I mean,
hear that. How have you embraced the city? Folks, how have you embraced the city? Not how have you embraced being an owner of the Carolina Panthers? Not how have you embraced being an owner of Charlotte FC? This is the response.
we've embraced the city. I think what's great about being here in Charlotte and having this platform is being able to open up the stadium to 40 ticketed events.
So you're ticked off that she's talking about events when she's talking about, she was asked a question about embracing the city, not being an owner of the Carolina Panthers, folks. I'm so tired of it, man. You can get pissed about some of this stuff and go for it. But she was asked a question about the city, not about the state of the team, and her response was spot on.
I mean, for the city and the state of Charlotte, for the people here and
It's
the
not a
economic
state.
impact
I
it
will
had.
clarify that.
So for me, for Dave, like that's really one of the most proudest moments in the 6 years. I think before there was only 10 to 13 events here. So I mean,
Whoa.
think about that. It's amazing.
We gotta get a Super Bowl back here. I saw you in Vegas for a second. We gotta get one.
I'm tired of it, man. I can't do it. Like, you want to get mad about whatever you want to get mad about, do it. She was asking a relevant question about her impact to the city of Charlotte. And I would argue that outside of this small bubble of Panthers fans, that Bank of America Stadium is getting sold out for Beyonce, is getting sold out for Luke Combs, and there is an impact. There is an impact that they're doing. They're bringing the high school football games there. You can get mad, but that was the question. It wasn't, what do you embrace about the Carolina Panthers? And I think here's the other thing. You can say, well, they should have talked about the Panthers. We all know, they know, the Panthers haven't been good. The Panthers have been bad the last 6 years. And I likened it to, okay, going into a job interview and telling you what's your greatest moment, working at XYZ company. Well, it was actually the moment that I got fired. And that's essentially what we would be doing. Like, I don't know. I'm just not here for it. The other thing, and I'm not going to, I'll stop sharing this portion of it. The other thing that I was going to talk about is later on, there was another piece that came out of this where she talks about watching film with Dave Canales. Sitting back like, oh my gosh, yeah, I get it, because people get mad. Here's the thing, though. They get mad one day when she talks about the Panthers, mad when she's not talking about the Panthers. I'm like, which is it? You're mad if she shows up to practice, mad if she's not involved in practice. I don't know. Like, what is your stance? Pick a side and figure it out. You get mad and then you're not mad. Like, oh, why are you talking? Why are you not talking? So you go back and listen, and the clip that came up was talking through the interview process. And again, fans started blowing up that she's in there watching film with Dave Canales. Like, this is a big red flag that they are involved, that we have ownership that's overstepping the line. I go back and listen to the clip, and she is talking about Dave Canales breaking down film in the interview process. And at first she says, I could watch this, watch him do this for hours. And then follows that up and corrects herself and says, listen to him, Dave Canales, break down film. I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm already having to like mute accounts because I'm just not in it for the negativity. And I think it's just part of like, I get it. There's not many people that like our front office. There's not many people that like the trajectory of the Carolina Panthers. But there's bigger things to this situation, and for whatever reason we just get so hung up on this. And as we get hung up on these things, the larger media gets hung up on it. So the other thing that happened, and it's unrelated to this interview, was a segment with Pro Football Today. Was it Mike Florio? I posted this on X as well, where Dave Canales goes to talk to them on the show when they were at the NFL Combine. I went to watch it. Pretty good segment. But we kick off that segment, or they kick off that segment, and Mike's like, oh, I'm not going to do it. I could have done it. I had a really good icebreaker, and essentially says like, oh yeah, I could have said, please don't throw the water on me, as Dave Canales had a water bottle coming up to the interview. He still used the icebreaker, even though he said he wasn't going to do it. We're just the laughing stock of the entire NFL. And as we as a fan base continue to get hung up on these stupid things that don't matter, larger people are going to do it too. And it's just never, a lot of it can and will change when you have success on the field and we start winning games. But it's time to put it to rest. And Nicole is the chief administration officer, part owner of the Panthers. Again, they work for Tepper Sports and Entertainment. So I think it's time for us to take a step back, folks. It's not the big deal that you're making it out to be. And if you're part of the group that's seeing the little clip or one little statement and retweeting it or morphing it to whatever view that you want to do, so be it. I'm not here for it, and I'm not going to endorse it. And I'll continue to make the content that I want, and I'll continue to be harsh on them when it's necessary. When it's necessary for me to say, hey, yeah, I'm tired of us firing coach after coach after coach and not being patient, or hey, yeah, you shouldn't be throwing water on a fan, or maybe you shouldn't be in things like, yeah, absolutely. But when we're talking about these minute things that truly just are being blown out of proportion, I'm going to shut it down from my fan base for me personally. So anyways, folks, that is the soapbox that I'm on for today. Thank you all for tuning in. Hey, I got to say, new podcast episode coming out. Again, I'll cut it at some point today. Also have Charlotte FC NASCAR episodes coming out, so I'll have those. And until then, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a great day, great Saturday, and get ready to spring forward if you're on the East Coast or wherever you are. So see y'all.